this first part. Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to another episode of Fintech Fridays. I've got Dale Larson, the founder and CEO of Modex, joining us this week. Looking forward to our conversation. Dale, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. Looking forward to chatting.
So I think by now you probably have seen at least one of these episodes and understand the cadence. I'd like to open by asking our guests a question about the term fintech. So when you hear the term fintech, what does it mean to you? What kind of comes to mind for you when you hear that term?
Yeah, that's a good question, Brian. I think fintech is really going to encompass any company that was purpose-built to support the financial services industry. I think a lot of people would say, oh, any technology that serves financial services is fintech. And so thinking about that question before our call, I thought, well, there are certain scenarios where like Salesforce would serve fintech, right? Like banks, credit unions, et cetera, use Salesforce as a CRM. But I wouldn't necessarily call Salesforce fintech. But I would call any business that is purpose-built for mortgage, or in our scenario, mortgage, but really any financial services or the financial industry, fintech.
I love it. Yeah. So this is our seventh episode, and we've had 7 pretty unique definitions, which is pretty cool. It just speaks to the broadness with which the term is used, and then probably more importantly, the broadness of how people interpret and understand it, and kind of poking it at the Salesforce analogy just a little bit. And I would agree with you that at its surface, Salesforce as a platform is probably not a fintech, but inside of Salesforce, there are all kinds of apps and applications that are doing specific tasks or serving specific use cases. And sometimes inside of those, the underlying platform or company that supports it could be considered a fintech that's riding the rails of that broader Salesforce platform.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. I think it's kind of funny. Salesforce is an interesting example because while, yes, they're like a marketing platform, CRM platform, we call them a million things. I would, in Salesforce as an example, I would almost view them as like a technology themselves. Like an underlying infrastructure to something. So I know, again, we come from mortgage here at Modex. So I know that there are several CRMs that are built on top of the Salesforce engine, if you want to call it that. And I would call those companies fintech. But inherently, I wouldn't call Salesforce fintech. Just like I wouldn't call a specific database technology fintech just because Modex uses it. It's the application of that technology for its clients or users that really makes it fintech.
Yeah, it'd be similar to saying, Microsoft. Is Microsoft a fintech? Maybe not specifically, but to your point, plenty of businesses who are in the fintech space operate on Microsoft. So, again, I'm fascinated by the wide swath of thoughts and answers around that single question. So let's talk a little bit about Modex. You guys are as you said, in the mortgage space, and you're serving a use case. And for our viewers and listeners that don't know about Modex, maybe just talk a little bit about what you guys do and who you serve.
Yeah. So also, absolutely. Just a really quick history to our business as well. We founded back in 2015. And if anyone has ever seen my name on LinkedIn or whatever place put my name out there, I'm Dale 3. And there is a Dale Jr., and if people can make this assumption, Dale Jr. is my dad. So it's really funny to be doing these calls with clients, sometimes large clients, and I have to tell them, well, I have to bring my dad to a call. People seem to think that's funny. So my dad comes with 25 to 30 years of experience in the mortgage banking space here in the Pacific Northwest. We're based out of Washington State. And so growing up, I was very lucky. I was able to work in and around his businesses. He's never been a loan officer. I'm sure he'll see this video eventually, and I'll poke a little bit of fun at him. He would have no idea even what a 1003 looks like, for anyone who's in the mortgage space that watched this podcast. But he's always been in leadership roles doing business development and mergers and acquisition and stuff like that. So I was able to grow up around that environment. And then I come from a technology role. So I eventually talked to my dad after I graduated college, and I had said, hey, we can really take what you do in business development, data, mergers and acquisitions, et cetera, and we can take what I'm good at with data and technology and stuff like that and building teams, small teams, and we can bring it together to build Modex. So Modex's main purpose is to provide accurate data for the mortgage banking space for the purposes of recruiting. We apply that in two ways, one of which is a marketplace where loan officers can engage the recruiting community in a method that is confidential and anonymous for them. So that's kind of the first way. And then the second way is through our data platform called Modex Recruit, which is really where you can then look through all of our data, licensing data, public records data, MLS data, et cetera, to see who's producing at a loan officer, branch, company, wholesale, and geography level, and getting very granular on that. So, you know.
So that's very interesting and fascinating to me because I've been almost 30 years in mortgage banking, and when I think of kind of the recruiting firms that are out there that are kind of front and center, if you will,
yeah,
most of them aren't based on technology. Most are kind of old school, right? Mm-hmm. Smile and dial, lots of interaction, phone calls, et cetera. So maybe let's I'd like to kind of take two approaches to kind of just understand a little bit about both sides of it. Let's start with the prospective candidate, if you will, mm-hmm. and just tell us a little bit about their experience with your platform. How intuitive is it, engaging, and then maybe just tell a little bit about how someone would come to find it, for one, as a prospective, as a loan officer maybe looking for a new opportunity, and then some of the value and benefits that they might receive from that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've actually backed into the fact that we can draw lots of parallels between our business and other businesses that already exist. So for the loan officer profiles, we would call them, my two parallels are going to be modern day dating apps and Zillow. Okay, I'll unpack what I mean by that. So first of all, we have so much data on loan officers that we preemptively create profiles for them. So, I didn't add my house to Zillow. Zillow already knew my house, as an example. Public records data, multiple listing service data, and user submitted data from myself to update that information. So Zillow already knows everything about me and my house, effectively. So same thing with Modex and loan officers. I already know who you are, where you work, who you work for, your licenses, all your transactions for the most part. And so what you can do as a loan officer is you can come to our platform. You can claim your profile. It's no cost to claim your profile, stuff like that. We provide you a variety of little features as a loan officer who has claimed their profile, like ranking, some market research, and a variety of other tools. Now, the real function of Modex and the principal idea behind the platform was allowing you to engage the recruiting community. So there's a function on a loan officer side of the platform where they can then, we really probably should redefine this marketing term, raise your hand to say, hey, I want to talk about new job opportunities. When you do that, we then flag you in our database as interested in new job opportunities, and then we start showing recruiters you. Now, again, we started our business, again, maybe a little bit of history to us again really quickly. We founded our business back in 2015, but the first platform version, like version 1, like MVP, wasn't launched until late 17, early 18. So for the first 2.5 years or so, we did a lot of market research. We did focus groups with loan officers to understand really what are their pain points with looking for new employment opportunities. And really the two things that we came across were, one, loan officers, when they're ready to look for jobs, really don't know where to look for jobs. And then two, when they start looking for jobs, they're generally a little bit uncomfortable to look for jobs, a little bit anxious. I mean, there are different personas of loan officers. Some loan officers just want their name out there. They don't care that their employer knows that they're looking for jobs. But in our experience, in our research, we found that many loan officers are a little bit uncomfortable when they start doing that. So when a loan officer raises their hand in our platform and we start showing them to recruiters on the subscriber side of the platform, they're anonymous. Loan officers are anonymous. So you can see a loan officer's production, you can see what county they're in, but I don't show you their name, NMLS ID, employer, city, etc. So you can't track it back to them. So they can really play the market. Okay, so the first thing there from a Zillow perspective is I already know everything about you, so you don't really need to come in here and add any information. The second thing, and again, we've backed into the fact that we're kind of like these companies, is we're kind of like a modern day dating app where you can kind of play the market. You can come out here and you can say, hey, I'm looking for dates, or I'm looking for a job. And we'll put, again, if anyone has ever seen any of these modern day dating apps, you'll see pictures of, for me at least, see pictures of women.
By the way, I haven't. Yeah. I'm just saying, I have not.
Okay, yeah. It's been like 2 or 3 years for me as well since I've been on one. But anyways, maybe they've evolved since then. But you can see like pictures of people and you can see their little bio, but it doesn't say like, hey, here's how to contact them. Here's their phone number, their email. People want to be protected behind the screen. Behind the screen is an empowering thing. So if you're a loan officer, it's kind of like a dating app. Put your name out there. You got nothing to lose. You can get engaged by multiple people. If you want to talk to them, great. If you don't want to talk to them, fine too. And then if you really want to go into a more serious, committed relationship with someone, if you want to really draw that parallel to dating apps, you can then release your identity to that recruiter. You can take that conversation offline and go and get coffee or a beer and then go get hired by that company. Modex, we're not building a new market.
Right.
Mortgage, loan officers switch jobs in droves every year. So I'm not trying to build a new market for loan officers to switch jobs, just like dating's already existed. The dating apps didn't build dating. It's just we're making it more efficient through Modex by providing people the right technology.
Is there a level, and maybe we'll get into this, but is there a level of vetting that Modex kind of takes on both sides of the equation, or not necessarily?
There is. We do some verification to ensure that people that are claiming their profiles are correcting the correct profile. Okay, we do have a verification system in place to ensure that. On the recruiter side, not as much verification is happening. Generally speaking, if people are giving us money, we generally know who they are. Some things that we are looking to deploy here soon are more characteristics of employers. So an employer could say, hey, I have weekly sales meetings, or I do provide monthly leads. And so then as a loan officer, they could also see the profile of the recruiter or prospective employer they're talking to. So they could say, hey, I don't want to go to weekly sales meetings. I'm not that guy. And so then they can really see people that are probably relevant. It would be a good fit for them.
Interesting. So this, I told you as we were kind of coming on before we hit record that there's a lot of zigs and zags in these conversations. So bear with me here.
No.
Immediately, what comes to mind for me is being on the tech side of the business now, I spend a lot of time thinking about our prospective clients and their tech stack, right? So how does FinLocker fit in the tech stack? And so as you were describing kind of these attributes, I guess, of a lender that may be attractive to certain loan officers, have you guys thought about kind of a lender profile that includes, to the extent that you know this information, what their tech stack is, right? Are they a Ellie Mae shop, and do they use Total Expert and blah 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 blah? That may be another value point for you guys to kind of build out in better matching loan officers. So I'm thinking about this from a LO's perspective, and I'm not picking on anybody's technology, but if I'm sitting at a shop and I'm frustrated because my lender or the shop I'm at is on ABC point of sale, I'm really not going to pick on anybody because I don't. They're on AB and it's consistently bugging out, or I'm having problems, and I really want to find a lender who meets my other attribute needs, but who's on Encompass. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
And so that could be an interesting set of attributes that you all present in your profile on the lender side.
I agree, absolutely. The tech stack, that's an interesting way to look at it, and I've never thought of it that way. The tech stack of a loan officer, that's an interesting way to think of it. Is obviously constantly evolving and constantly changing. I think there are still loan officers out there that are not using any sort of tech. and that's fine.
Oh, yeah.
You want to be old school?
Yeah.
You go for, man, you want to use paper? Go for it. That's great.
Yeah.
But there are other loan officers that they have the full stack. They're willing to try new technologies, and they're wanting to be more, and I think, again, coming from technology, more efficient. I think going paper is slow and painful. I mean, I get paper bills, but if you're going to be doing business, I would definitely prefer technology. So yeah, I think we've explored the different characteristics of a lender. So looking at it from a leadership standpoint, a culture standpoint, a technology standpoint, we haven't, admittedly, actually, we haven't talked internally here about going all the way down to individual technologies. What we have talked about is providing tools to loan officers so that they can understand the field of technology available. We don't think that there's a great place for a loan officer to say, hey, I want to learn about CRMs. Right. And then have a list of all the mortgage-related CRMs out there and maybe feedback from other users, stuff like that. So if I was a loan officer and I wanted a new point of sale, I'd have to go to Google and look up LOS or mortgage point of sale, POS. We have talked internally here at Modex about providing our clients some kind of tool, not clients, loan officers, some kind of tool where they can see, hey, here's the full breadth of tech stacks that is available in the market. And then I suppose it'd be really cool to then drop that onto loan officers. I mean, what if I could show, here are the top 10 producers in the U.S. because I know who they are. And I could say, here are the tech stacks that they use, and here's how they're using them. That would certainly be really interesting information to look at.
I have another follow-on question. And it's really around, based on the data that you see, which is, you have these loan officers on one side and these hiring companies on the other side. How would you characterize, let's just say over the last 12 months, how would you characterize the amount of mobility that is happening still in that loan officer space? Is it still a pretty active space in terms of people moving and looking for different opportunities? Absolutely.
So this metric is a little bit stale, so just go with me. Well, actually here, the first metric I can provide you is that there are about 564,000 both licensed and registered loan officers in the U.S., okay, period. Now,
500 and how many?
564,000, roughly. Wow. Like if you go to NMLS, they might provide a slightly different number, but that's what we've calculated based upon looking at licenses and registrations. Now, to clarify on that really quick, and I don't have these metrics available, unfortunately, that number actually gets significantly smaller pretty quick because, for example, Wells Fargo probably has like 60,000 registered loan officers, but in reality, they maybe have like 2,000 to 4,000 active, which we don't have that metric available exactly right now. But when we're looking,
as an example, they're bank tellers, maybe registered loan officers.
Exactly. Yeah, and we find that really often with credit unions, where credit unions will register everyone to just cover themselves from a compliance perspective. But anyway, so you have around total 564,000 both licensed or registered loan officers in the U.S., and that's across banks, lenders, brokers, depositories, everyone. We ran metrics. This is about 18 months old, this metric, unfortunately, but about 86,000 loan officers switch jobs on an annual basis. Okay, so about 86,000 have actually made a move. We viewed that data through licensing data. Our general rule of thumb metric that we use internally here at Modex is about 1/3 of loan officers are in some kind of flux at any point in time. I think the interesting thing with loan officers in the mortgage industry in general is that loan officers are fairly plug and play. I mean, you go from one lender to a bank to a credit union to a broker. It's the same forms. It's different technology, and it's perhaps even different licensing, but you got to have the relationships. You got to know the 1003, stuff like that. So it is a very variable industry. It's an interesting industry.
So in that approximately 80,000 that are kind of in flux, have you done some analysis to kind of understand what the average of those 80,000 looks like? And what I'm trying to understand is, do we see more movement in the middle of the loan officer sphere in terms of productivity, or is it pretty well distributed across all productivity? I would just guess that there's less movement per se at the most productive segment, and then as you maybe go down, you start to see elevated movement. Is that a fair way to think about it?
Absolutely, yes. So our analysis shows that the average loan officer across the U.S. Okay, so you got to kind of like level out. Because I'm in Seattle, so it seems like we do a lot of production here. But the average loan officer in the U.S. does about $10 million in production a year on average.
Yep.
So yeah, the majority of loan officers switching jobs are folks who are not new to the industry, not super seasoned professionals. It's that middle group, which makes up the majority of the production across the U.S. that are switching jobs.
Yeah. No, that feels right. That intuitively, that's kind of where I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So how do loan officers find you, and then how do lenders find you?
Yeah, that's great. So I'm slowly like giving you tidbits about our business. We're a really small business. There's only about 7 folks on my team. We're actually hiring our 8th here next week. Most of us are on the West Coast. A couple of us are on the East Coast. A couple of them are on the East Coast. So we really, being a startup, we still view ourselves as a startup. We really don't do much marketing or advertising. Unfortunately, we really launched our platform nationwide like 18 months ago. And so we really haven't been able to go to any conferences with the COVID stuff. So a lot of our, from a paying subscriber standpoint, so lenders, brokers, depositories, banks, et cetera, a lot of them have heard about us from word of mouth. We do a little bit of outbound marketing. And actually, surprisingly, a lot of our business is referral. I think it's so funny. I tell all of the people that we hire this, and I think your business, I'm sure, is similar to this. Mortgage is like, again, hopefully, goodness, I hope I don't offend anyone, but mortgage is so painfully archaic. It's like it's all like enterprise 90s SAP software, like IBM. Like, it drives me insane. And so Modex, we're trying to be like the young startup. I mean, like if you could do like an autopilot car, like they're all flashy, like Tesla or Zoom or all those guys, XOOM, however they pronounce their name. They're like cool, they're flashy, they're fun. They're not like these archaic, Ford, but they're like a Ford or a Chevrolet. So we're trying to be more innovative, faster, better, more cost effective, better support, all of that, like you'd see in a modern day startup. A lot of our clients, actually, it's also really bizarre to me, send us referral business. It's like one lender will refer us to another lender, but they're both recruiting in the same market, which just seems so backwards to me. It seems cannibalistic that they're both trying to use better tools to be more efficient to recruit in the same market. But I guess that's how they do it. So a lot of it is referral business. A ton of it's referral business. So that's from the paying subscriber lender side. From the loan officer side, it's a lot of SEO. Okay, we have several 100,000 pages indexed with search engines, so a lot of times we're found that way. Also, I think it is word of mouth sometimes. It's really interesting. So we have a channel in Slack where we track whenever people claim profiles and stuff like that. And so you'll see it'll be like maybe quiet for a couple hours, and then all of a sudden you'll see like 20 people claim their profiles with all the same company email. And I'm like, okay, someone found Modex, and then they forwarded it to their buddy, and then it just got into a text message string, and they all claimed it. So a lot of it is SEO, but a lot of it is also referral as well. That's super cool, because that's the social aspect is really ideal. We talk about the lenders referring, their friends or people in their sphere, and that's pre-tech social, right? Yeah. But on the loan officer side, it's truly kind of a social media tech enabled distribution. It's fascinating that you point out that you can see kind of these spikes that happen, from those same email addresses. I love it. So this has been super helpful, super cool. I'm excited to be able to learn about what you guys are doing, and I'm sure now that people are going to see this, they'll recognize your logo, which is also really cool, very modern. Let's close this out, Dale, by maybe just sharing a little bit about yourself, just to help folks get to know you a little bit beyond the company. Yeah, Pacific Northwest, born and raised. Holy moly, what can I say about myself? Here's a surprising thing, and I always joke about this, and goodness, again, I hope I don't offend anyone, and I doubt I would, but I'm half Latino. My mom is from Nicaragua. My mom is from Central America. She came up here during the revolution, met my dad in Marysville, Washington. They got married, and then 10 years later, here I am. So I'm probably one of the whitest Latinos you'd ever meet. Prior to working at Modex, I worked in the ski industry. I was a IT director for one of the largest ski resorts here in Washington State. So that was a interesting time. It's really interesting to do like IT on-site infrastructure in the snow in very remote locations. So that was fun. But besides that, yeah, got a great family. I have a good life. I enjoy it. I just got back from Arizona about 6 hours ago. I'm a little tired, but yeah. So that's a little bit about me, I guess.
Well, appreciate it, Dale. We appreciate having you on and learning about Modex. And like I said, I'm looking forward to watching your company grow. And you said it earlier, we haven't had the luxury of getting out to conferences, but I'm sure by end of this year, we're all going to be hitting the circuit hard, and I look forward to seeing you out there in person. Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time. I'll see you at the conferences. I'll definitely come find you and meet you in person.
For sure. Thanks again.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
All right.